Good morning and welcome to Rising. We've got another great show for you today. I'd like to begin by wishing a very happy birthday to Lindsay.
Thank you. I'm a winter baby. I'm just turning 21. I'm so happy I got this job here at this young age.
I was going to say 29, which I think the audience would
29.
fully believe.
Yes, 29. 21 plus 8 times that I've celebrated over and over again.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much for the birthday wishes. I'm excited to be here in D.C., my new home.
Your new home.
See how I'm going to go out and celebrate tonight.
That should be fun. Middle of the week, though. We've still got
It is. I know.
I
know. Coming up on Rising, pop star Sabrina Carpenter is feuding with the White House after they used one of her songs in a deportation video on X.
Plus, billionaires Michael and Susan Dell have pledged to donate $6.25 billion to investment accounts for 25 million children.
And President Putin is accusing Europe of sabotaging peace plans for the Ukraine war and even said he was ready for war with the continent if they wanted it. But first, Robby, what's on your radar?
Let's get to it. She's back. Hillary Clinton is opining on a topic near and dear to her heart, the supposed misinformation spread by social media regarding all her favorite topics. This is a political figure utterly convinced she would be accepted by all the world and by American voters in particular if people stopped listening to social media and instead got all their news from the credentialed experts of the mainstream media. Recently, Clinton spoke at Israel Hayam's summit to explain why she thinks people, especially young people, many of them Jewish Americans themselves, have turned against Israel over the war in Gaza. Spoiler, she thinks it's all TikTok's fault. Let's watch.
That our students, smart, well-educated young people from our own country, from around the world, where were they getting their information? They were getting their information from social media, particularly TikTok. That is where they were learning about what happened on October 7th, what happened in the days, weeks, and months to follow. That's a serious problem. It's a serious problem for democracy, whether it's Israel or the United States, and it's a serious problem for our young people.
This is a very familiar refrain from Clinton, who, of course, when she lost the 2016 election, blamed it all on Facebook and, in particular, Russian bots that supposedly flooded the platform with pro-Trump and anti-Clinton content. It's part of the reason she concluded that Trump was an illegitimate president. Her words. People had trusted respectable news outlets. They wouldn't have fallen for the lies of social media, which are polluting our democracy, according to Clinton. Of course, what we learned subsequently is that the impacts of Russian bots on Facebook was greatly exaggerated, but never mind, Hillary Clinton has found her go-to explanation for political outcomes that she disagrees with. Here's more of her remarks in which she clearly applies the same script to declining support for Israel.
A lot of the challenge is with younger people. More than 50% of young people in America get their news from social media. So just pause on that for a second. They are seeing short-form videos, some of them totally made up.
There's so much wrong with this, I don't even know where to start. First, the idea that social media evinces some bias, whereas traditional and legacy and mainstream media does not, is just obviously false. The mainstream had their biases. It was a bias toward government action. And when it comes to foreign policy, a bias toward military intervention and against peace. Remember the Iraq War, when even liberal media largely marched in lockstep with the administration? The media has a bias toward action, and that means a bias toward interventionism. It's also the preference of the credentialed elites, whom the mainstream media relies upon. Social media, by extension, is freewheeling and encompasses many other perspectives, some of which are wrong, or biased, or malicious, sure. But look, in the year of our Lord, 2025, if you don't have a plan for your message to prevail on social media, you don't have a plan, period. Social media has won the attention wars. Most people will continue to get their news from YouTube, from TikTok, from X, from Instagram. Those platforms may change over time, as there's remarkable competition in this space, contrary to what the antitrust people say. But people are not going to go back to television and print journalism. And by the way, if they are consuming programming made available via those formats, they are likely going to be consuming them on social media. You see a lot of screenshots from magazines and clips from TV on social media. It encompasses legacy media. There's just no way of getting around it. So what I suspect people like Hillary Clinton are really mad about is that people are consuming news sources that elites do not approve of, and they are reaching conclusions elites do not agree with. The fact is that many Americans, including many Jewish Americans, disagree with U.S. taxpayers funding Israel's destruction of Gaza. They've reached that conclusion after educating themselves. That's it. That's the whole story. They're not being manipulated or tricked. It's the same story as Americans losing faith in the Iraq War or even the Vietnam War before that. The American people got tired of both of those entanglements long before U.S. policymakers and experts soured on the conflicts. So don't be mad at the messenger, Madam Secretary. If you want Americans to support your foreign policy, you have to sell it better. Stop whining about TikTok or about other social media sites and get in the game, girl. By the way, if you're interested in how social media and big tech are impacting society and free speech, and you happen to live in Washington, D.C., I'm participating in a debate next week sponsored by my colleagues at Reason Magazine. You can go online for tickets. It's going to be me and Elizabeth Nolan Brown at Reason versus Ryan Grimm and Emily Jashinsky of Breaking Points, whom longtime viewers will remember from their days on Rising Fridays. Should be a great event, and it will appear, of course, on YouTube after it's filmed.
I'm excited for this event. That's going to be very, feisty debate. To talk about Hillary, I think...
Hillary. Dear old Hillary.
I like how you said girl. But translation to me of what she's saying is like, okay, you're not seeing what you're seeing, right? Because people online were just, you are seeing what you're seeing. And I think...
They were seeing images of dead kids, and they're rebelling against it. I'm sorry. Sorry they're seeing that. Nobody likes it.
And I think the context is important here, right? Hillary Clinton, and I don't know the long history of everything she said in her relationship directly to Israel. Like we saw the mayor of New York, Eric Adams, in Israel. And when he was recently visited, he had all the nicest things to say, but it was the audience. She is at a summit called the Israel Hayam Summit.
Yeah.
So it's important to understand the context that everything she's going to say is going to be largely positive in relation to that.
Yeah.
I don't think she would even go on that stage and criticize Netanyahu, which could be a thought that's in her head, because a lot of people worldwide have criticized his decisions in regards to this particular conflict. But I do think that I completely disagree with her, because when I first got into journalism and started producing for television, it was around the Arab Spring, which was around 2010, and there was a huge rising of people in the Middle East, and we watched that play out. And that was one of the first times that Twitter was blowing up, because it was like citizen journalism. People getting out there and showing us what was going on over there, and people finding ways to meet up outside of their news organizations that may stifle them, and found ways to protest and change what they wanted to see happen. And so I think by watching that, especially as a journalist, we no longer had to rely on a few sources to figure out what was going on internationally. We could look at people real time, live streaming or showing things on TikTok, on X at the time, or Twitter, and we were informed that way and would vet it. And I think it's a conduit to find more information. Of course, it's up to the magazines, newspapers, mainstream outlets, and even bloggers, podcasters, whoever's putting out information, to try to thoroughly vet their stuff if they want to be a trusted source. But the fact that there are more citizen journalists out there, it's how we are allowed to see what's really happening. It's how, when we go and talk about protests happening within our own country, or whether or not ICE incidents are getting out of control, we literally have videos now from people that were there, and then it's our job to vet them and find out if it's true, find out the person that filmed it, and figure out the context of it all. But I don't think that's a bad thing, and shutting that down is certainly not going to change the ways that people consume the information. They'll just find another way to put it out there.
She's still bitter about losing her election. She thinks it's because you got confused on Facebook. She still thinks that, and it's just not. People blaming social media is, we talked about this a little bit yesterday. I think that's really you're covering for some other insecurity, really. And that's her problem. She's just been rejected by the American people. Wasn't because they were confused, wasn't because they didn't know what they were getting. They just didn't want what she was offering.
Well,
Sorry.
Ever since the Arab Spring that I brought up, the algorithm has changed. And now it's very much stifled in a way that it wasn't, because now there are people that have gotten involved to argue your point about making sure the content that we see is more streamlined. But there still are things that can't be contained.
Yeah.
When the world is watching something and 72,000 people die in Gaza, there's no way that you can block people from finding that out.
Yep, absolutely. Coming up, in what President Trump is describing as one of the largest private donations in American history, billionaires Michael and Susan Dell are pledging to give $6.25 billion to investment accounts for 25 million children. We'll be right back.